We're going to be talking about The Choice of Magic by Michael G. Manning. It's a coming-of-age story about Will and all of his friendships and relationships. One of my favorite is Tiny from When He Goes to War. Tiny is like this big, rough man that is actually really sweet and is very loyal. He actually gets to teach Will about how if he makes a mistake, anybody that's around him will be in the same mistake as him because he actually did get Tiny into some trouble because he tried helping Will.
I actually really like that quote. What Tiny says is, think about what you're doing. If that big heart of yours gets you into a fight, you might not be the only one bleeding. Your friends might be bleeding for you.
Another thing that I really like about this book is the progression of Will from not knowing any magic to becoming a very proficient wizard. I really like how he just came upon his magic by accident, by saving someone, and then he was trained by his grandfather, and little by little he started becoming more proficient by just watching what other people did.
I don't know if I agree with you because honestly, at the end of the book, he still doesn't know any magic. All he knows how to do is how to control his Turin, which is what they call mana in this book.
He only learns one, and that's the one to control somebody else's source. That's the only spell he learned. He practiced how to use that spell on Tiny and made him cut himself with a fork. So that was a pretty funny moment.
I also really like Aragon. I don't know if you guys remember the grandfather, great grandfather. He's about 600 years old. But I really like the relationship he was trying to have with him. He was trying to be super hard on him, but in the end, he ended up being a big softie. He really liked the guy.
Yeah, he acts all gruff, but inside he really cares about.
He's a cantankerous old curmudgeon.
And we only found that out after Will went to Fairy and we found Aragon's diary, where it like showed all his thoughts and why he was doing everything and why he got tortured Will.
I think you might be mixing it up because he actually found that diary because of his mom.
His
and
mom
it was in
found
his
the
bedroom.
diary.
Yeah. After Aragon died, he went into his bedroom and his mom gave him the diary.
But before he was even able to get to his bedroom, he had to become the new tenant of the goddamn cat.
Goddamn Cat is another really awesome character that Michael G. Manning created in this book.
At first, we think that he's a normal old cat and that his grandfather is just being a complete lunatic, saying how he's the landlord and he has
Feeding
to pay
him
rent.
eggs.
Yeah, but then we actually learned that he's actually a powerful being, and he wards away the enemies of this book. Fairies, sorcerers.
So the Fae are immortal in this book, right? They even if you kill them, they come back to life. If you cut them into pieces, they eventually come together and they become alive again. They mentioned in the book that if the goddamn cat hunts you and kills you, you stay dead forever. So that's why the Fae are afraid of him.
The goddamn cat kind of reminds me of like Avengers and that cat that like is an alien, but it just looks like a cat, and it just like, I don't know, that cat's scary. I always think about that cat when I think about the goddamn cat.
Let's focus on the fairy portion. What I think is interesting about the Fae in this story is that normal humans can become Fae, provided that they either eat from that land or they spend enough time. And if you're born in fairy, you become a Fae.
And a character that became a Fae because they were born there was Taeltu, which is Aragon's daughter and Ashlyn's daughter as well. Taeltu and Ashlyn's relationship with Will is quite interesting because they help Will even though they're supposed to be all selfish and egotistical.
Cold-hearted, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, they definitely break some of the rules.
That we know of right now because they may be helping him, but really helping themselves.
In the future.
We don't know yet.
But they have incurred some debts for Will. For example, Taeltu gave him 3 unbounded favors by kissing him without Will's permission. And an unbounded favor is that you can ask for anything and they have to give it to you. So that's the kind of power that Will holds on Taeltu.
That brings up a good point. There is another quote in the book that I really love where the grandfather teaches Will never to incur any debt, that he should always either pay it back or trade with something of equal value. And as you think about it, is actually very important. Many times there are these depths of gratitude where someone has more power than the other person, and so they feel obliged to help them, and sometimes even do bad things because that other person helped them at one point, and this is their way of paying them back because they don't feel that they can pay it back in any other way. So I think that that's something that could be used in real life, not to incur any debt, and always try to pay it off.
I want to talk about an interesting relationship that Will has with one particular character, which is Isabel slash Seline. So we first meet Isabel back when Will was, what, 10 years old, 11?
Yes, and we
Yes.
meet her as Seline.
Yes, as Seline. So basically what happens is Will saves the young noble daughter of Lord Nero from a snake bite and actually gets a scar on his cheek because the coachmaster whipped him in the face. And the young noble woman did not apologize, but Seline did. That's the first sign that we see that Seline is different.
Even though she's noble.
And the relationship with Celine's father, King Lonion, was disheartening because every single time one of her friends says, "I know who you are," that means that Seline and her friend can no longer be friends and they become strangers again. Because I guess the king doesn't want anybody to befriend Seline.
I think it's a way for King Lonion to control his daughter.
I mean, I guess one of the reasons could be is she's a very powerful sorceress.
I want to delve a little bit deeper into the magic system, right? So there's 3 types of magic users. You've got sorcerers, wizards, and warlocks. Let's start with sorcerers. Sorcerers use powers of elementals to harness their spells, and they can control the elementals to do their bidding, right?
Which is what Seline is.
All the nobles are sorcerers. To be a noble, you have to have an elemental in this.
You could lose all of your fortune if you
Don't have any
an
elemental. Which brings us to our next magic user, wizards. Wizards use their turn, which is the magic of this world. They use their life force to harness this turn into the spells that they cast. Something that's awful about this way of magic is that every single spell you cast, it shaves off days, months, even years of your life. Unless you're a true wizard like Aragon and Will, who learn to absorb turn from their surroundings to cast their spells. And in doing so, they live hundreds of years.
The crux of this book is the fact that Aragon was the last true wizard
Yes.
in the world.
And now,
And that is what develops the whole story. That the fact that he was the last true wizard and he trained Will.
and the last one that knows about true wizards, because everybody thinks wizards are weak nowadays.
I also love the relationship between Aragon and the wizards because he had this very strong dislike between wizards and you could feel his anger. He also disliked sorcerers because he didn't agree with their ways.
Oh, he totally hated sorcerers.
Which we won't spoil why he hates sorcerers, but you'll learn about it in future books, right?
Aragon truly disliked wizards. He actually found them pretty incompetent, and it was kind of funny.
Totally.
The way that he describes their total incompetence on
Bootlickers.
yes.
Because they tried to lick the boots of sorcerers in hopes that they get an elemental. Let's talk about magic user number 3, warlocks. Warlocks are magic users that bargain with other entities or deities to gain power, right? So warlocks aren't necessarily evil. It depends on what they bargain. So if they bargain things about themselves, they're not evil. But it's when they start to bargain things that they don't own, like other people or like armies and stuff like that, that's when they become evil, which I think
And
is very
obviously
interesting.
what they do with the magic.
That is one of the similarities that I found between this book and other fantasy books is anytime that anybody wants to practice magic outside of the structure that the government has, they become the bad type of wizard, in this case, the warlocks.
It's actually against the law to practice magic without
Studying.
authorization.
You have to study at an academy to learn magic.
Will, he can actually sense if herbs are edible or not. So that's how he came into the fairyland. And that's the only reason why he actually started learning about magic.
Yeah, he found a magic herb that opened up the magic sense, which normal wizards don't see for a very long time. And that's
It's
what
kind of
allowed
like the third eye.
Yeah, like in the Dresden Files, the third eye. But it's what allowed him to step into the Fae and actually made Aragon teach him magic.
My favorite part is when Will comes into his magic by accident by saving a young boy. And then from there, he gets trained by Aragon in an unorthodox, difficult way, which makes him very powerful. And then how little by little, even though he really knows nothing about magic, only knows one spell, he's able to defeat all of his foes in a very interesting manner. He just absorbs all the energy, or little by little, he just like, oh, there is a spell right here. Let me just take it apart.
The foundation that Aragon gave to Will was very meaningful in the ways of it made everybody's life so much harder. Because there was a time where Taeltu was actually going to die because Will was just absorbing all of her magic. And what Mom was talking about, how he literally disassembled a very powerful spell.
Also, at the very end of the book, or near the very end of the book, he absorbs the magic of a demon, which, according to what we read, was supposed to be deadly. Like, there was no known survivors of people that took that kind of energy in.
That was quite interesting because he absorbs it, but not only absorbs it, he converts it into his own turn, and it's able to get all that energy. And a lot of this stuff is just by accident. It just happens
instinct,
to him.
yeah.
But it's because of how he was trained, as you were saying, all the foundations that Aragon gave him, who made him powerful without even knowing.
Built him into a wizard that without spells is more powerful than your ordinary sorcerer.
So I feel like there's actually a lot of educational elements into this book that you can learn a lot from, because there's like the whole of you need to learn the basics before you try being a master, because if you try being a master before you learn the basics, you're gonna suck.
The other teaching moment too is that it's not all about power, that it's not right to just enslave things or beings or take advantage of people just because you are the person in power. So he's also trying to teach Will what's the right thing to do, and not because you know how to do magic that just gives you leave to do whatever you want. So he has a lot of different moral teachings in his book.
And we see that Will's character was actually shaped by Aragon because he had the option to take the power from the elementals, but instead of taking that, he decided to set them free.
And I love, like, Michael G. Manning was still able to incorporate the relationship after Aragon died. And the way he did it was kind of like a conscious, a voice in the back of your head telling him, don't do this, you have to wake up. And it kind of reminds me of, like, my relationship with my mother, because she is my conscience.
Which you ignore.
Yes! You get it!
The last thing that I absolutely love about this book is he makes you like and hate Will, because he totally portrays Will as a human. He's not perfect. He has his flaws.
Totally.
He makes the wrongest decisions, kind of like
So
what we
many
talked
mistakes.
But then he does brilliant things too.
and then he does brilliant things, and that's what a human being really is a person that in the moment you are completely overwhelmed with what's happening to you, and sometimes you have the ability to shift through all those things and make the right decision, but at other times you just let your emotions get the best of you and make the wrong decision at the wrong time that ends up, sometimes hurting your friends or create bigger problems for you. But I love how he incorporates this sense of humanity in his book. It's not, oh my gosh, this guy is all powerful, this mighty being that is perfect. He's not perfect, and that's something that I really enjoy about this book.
Yeah, because he showed ego, but he also showed humble. He had this way of making you feel the feelings that the characters were feeling, and it was kind of like you're watching like this great movie that like they're showing you. They're making you mad, they're making you sad. It's like they just had a bunch of feeling in the way he wrote the book versus like a very cheap production where you don't feel anything.
Yeah, I guess in Taylor's words you could say, he's hot and he's cold.
That's Katy Perry.
And same difference.
I think overall the book is a good beginning to a series that it's very character driven. I think not only Will, but some of the other side characters you learn to love and hate. Even though there's a lot of action, it's those interactions between the characters that really make you love the book.
So I know that I personally recommend the book. Do you guys?
Yes.
Definitely.
I recommend the book.
Well, That's it for our video today. So remember to hit that notification bell, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and be on the lookout for our next video.